Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Nuggets News. We are back with our weekly crypto news update with Michael, who's head of written research over on the platform, pumping out all that alpha daily, mate. And you've been busy at conferences and meetups and stuff again for a couple of weeks.
Oh, it's been almost a month solid now. I don't think I've had a weekend in like something like 28 days or something like that. I'm knackered, but man, it's been an adventure.
Awesome. Well, crypto remains near record highs, and all our metrics are still looking bullish. So plenty of news to get through, and probably the first one was that rate cut, and that's one of the things we've been looking at, why it's still bullish, and that caused that pump last night.
Well, it does seem like I'll jump in here, but it does seem like that there's no real slowdown here because especially we only got the smaller edition of the rate cut, and I think people were speculating that this is only the beginning as we go into sort of money printing season. So it's hard to see how we're going to have this massive end of bull market rollover when there's still so much money that's yet to come into the system, and we'll go across this in a second, but TradFi is not slowing down either.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's dive into all the news. We've got plenty to get through this week.
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight here BNB. So they actually broke $1,000 for the first time ever, as far as like a little bit of a milestone. It obviously bounced off of it slightly, but I'm surprised. I'm not surprised and surprised at the same time. Like this, I thought was like kind of done as a narrative once CV went away. But it seems like it's pretty resilient, and people still seem to want to use Binance Smart Chain. I think just the on-ramping, on off-ramping into Binance is very convenient. I know that I've got like a team which we work with, and they get paid into Binance just because it's so easy, which means that stable coins go into Binance. So people wanting to do TradFi stuff. So having a dual like utility driver to that BNB token has really propped it up. And so yeah, big milestone for the Binance token.
Yeah, and those big buybacks are obviously helping a lot as well.
100%. Um, Yeah, so just again, this is what I was doing the last 3 weeks was the Polkadot Blockchain Academy, and this was I'm not a developer, but this was really cool because this was hosted by Polkadot, but it was not all still Polkadot devs. It was devs from all over the industry. We had heaps of Solana devs in there because both of them obviously Rust based, and it was very cool because it was like top tier educators came and all came to Bali conveniently for me, and stayed on site. There was something like 700 applications. They picked the top 90 devs. And so it was really cool just talking with the wizards of the internet for 3 weeks. And I went and covered it all and covered all their projects and all the things that they're building. And not all of them are building in Polkadot, a lot of them are. But yeah, really, really cool to be able to just kind of talk to like some really clever people. And it just sort of happened at the same time that Polkadot has just decided to cap its supply and to introduce a halving mechanism. So every 2 years, they're going to have this like massive drop off in its staking emissions. And so there's now a fixed supply of 2.1 billion to sort of follow the 21 million Bitcoin. It'll reach that like in a gazillion years. But now every same time as they're halving, except every 2 years instead of every 4 years, they're going to absolutely slash the staking reward supply. So the dot token just became a little bit more limited. And I think it's up on about 25% on that news as well. Um,
Awesome. I know you've been a big fan of Polkadot and all their tech, so that's good news.
This was a big one that we've got now, I guess, as we swing into TradFi. Yeah, so Kraken launching, I guess, a new fundraising mechanism just to absolutely shower liquidity back into the system as well.
Yeah, so I had Matty Tokenomics on the show a year ago talking about Legion, also involved in Bitcoin DeFi stacks and that stuff, and doing this kind of more decentralized fundraising mechanism for the next round of ICOs, IPOs, whatever we want to call them these days.
Yeah, so you can see Kraken has just been like a beast here as well. And so you can think that, like in the US, after Coinbase, they're probably one of the more famous exchanges, like US exchanges. And so obviously that comes with a whole bunch of early access money that they're going to be able to get into. This, I think, is another big one. So, sorry, the SEC has approved Grayscale's multi-fund, XRP, Solana, and ADA. So again, we're kind of back to that Dino coin narrative a little bit. But I guess what with Dino coin comes like time tested and resilient. And so this multi-fund is going to be very interesting, and no doubt will be a revenue driver to all three of those projects.
Yeah, this is the thesis playing out, isn't it? That we're going to get these other products in the top 10 coins, and that's where the money's going to flow. So, yeah.
And so I guess this goes along. Eric Balkunas, who has been really famous around like sort of the ETF predictions and what's going to happen with all of these, he's now talking about how there's new sort of listing standards for a lot of these tokens. And so I think we're about to get flooded with ETFs. I know that we still don't have a Solana one officially, but I wouldn't be surprised if we've got one before the end of the year. We've just seen the DOT and the ADA one. AVAX has got one coming. I think even Polkadot's got one, which has to be either rejected or accepted in November. They just keep kicking the can down the road. So I wouldn't be surprised if before Christmas it's ETF altcoin season as well.
Yeah, I think we covered in the last episode, there's just dozens and dozens pending. So, more of those are bound to get approved shortly.
They've been kicking the can down the road on them as well, like they did with the Bitcoin and the ETH ones, like not rejecting, not accepting, but they all have the final sort of milestones before Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah, so another one here is that like I guess what is happening is that this is just going to be like a full world round ETF type sort of scenario. But what I think is interesting to note is the ETFs aren't exactly investable for all funds because a lot of the funds have policies that they can't invest into ETFs. So this is where the treasury company play comes in because it's not a fund that they're investing into. They're investing actually into a company. But the generic listing of all these types of shares is going to be, again, just money just coming from the clouds into just crypto-backed assets.
Yeah. Another good green light.
So just when you thought that Tether wasn't done yet, they're launching a new USA-backed token. And so we probably still need to do some digging here. But USAT, regulated stablecoin. So I thought that Tether was kind of minted already as the de facto institution because like I think we saw that they own more US treasuries now than Germany, which is the fourth biggest economy in the world. And so that kind of meant that they were protected. But look, they're going to try and do this in an even more compliant way with USAT. So this is again interesting. I don't know how that's going to work with USDT, USAT, whether they're going to be convertible. One's just going to be have a stricter compliance side, but Tether's not stopping, and they're not letting anyone take the crown from them either, by the looks.
And as I've spoken about, I think this is a play to absorb US debt and to have all these stablecoins backed by US treasuries. Yep.
Yep, exactly. Kyle Samani. So if anyone knows Kyle, he has been one of Solana's biggest VCs, and he has been it's from Multicoin Capital. And if you've been to any conference in the last couple of years, he's been out there declaring the death of Ethereum and the ascension of Solana. He's been the number one proponent of that narrative, which I vehemently disagree with. Um, but he has been right on a lot of things, and they've invested into a lot of dApps on the Solana ecosystem, which I think are very bullish. And so he's now jumped on to be in charge of one of these digital asset treasury companies as well for Solana. So again, huge amounts of funds coming in. I think super bullish for Solana. It just goes to show that now we're starting to really see like these protocols, which are just going to be minted forever.
Yeah.
Circle and Hyperliquid. Now, I think if we were to probably pick one token from this cycle, that like one new emerging one, it has to be Hyperliquid. Um, I thought that this narrative had already played out because we've had a few iterations of it already. Like DYDX was the first initial perps platform. They kind of got usurped by GMX, and everyone was really super bullish GMX. And I thought that they kind of reached its cap. But man, Hyperliquid is just its power. It's powerful. And I think that this token as well has got huge upside still, even though it's massively like valued.
Mm.
And I feel it was kind of wrong to part with money into an FTV valuation at this token, but at this level rather. But I can't see how the bullishness that's coming from it is anything but good, especially as Circle proves interoperability. And as they start to have more and more integrations, because people can now make front ends of their own business that just taps into the Hyperliquid engine and you get all that liquidity.
And they're going to rake
Yeah,
in the fees if we get to this altcoin part of the cycle over the next few weeks or whatever it is. Yeah.
absolutely. So like any dips on Hype now, I don't own any Hyperliquid. I've never actually owned the Hype token at all. I thought that I'd missed the train when it took off. I'm like, that's too overvalued. And I've said that the whole way along, but it's almost becoming too impressive to ignore. All right, so moving in. So yeah, Hyperliquid partnering with the stablecoin back. They're going to have this whole like a suite of stablecoins as well. USDH is the new one coming. If we were to pick a project that was the winner of this cycle being hyperliquid, the narrative is definitely stablecoins.
Yep.
All right, so moving on, Athena has been one which was early to this space, and I've talked about this multiple times here on this show that those protocols that want to kick back fees are going to be the ones that win because traditionally, like project teams have had some sort of labs behind a protocol, and they would keep all the fees and the revenue that a platform generates and just spit out tokens, which they just, I guess, is their new form of alchemy. But that's no longer the narrative. These projects are not getting support, and Athena's now seen this, and they generate a huge amount of revenue, and they're going to start sharing those revenues. So I guess bullish for the ENA token.
Yeah.
I'm trying to whip through these because we've got a lot of news. It's been a big week. So um, Polymarket has received an insane valuation. So we saw Polymarket was the one platform that was correct on the US presidential election last year. Everyone else was giving us like these. I even think 2 weeks out from the election, it was being predicted on mainstream media that like Trump would get swept in all of the swing states. And that was the narrative that the media was going out with. But then you go to Polymarket and they were bang on correct about exactly what the result was going to be. So it shows that people that could vouch with their own money was actually an indicator of truth, not spin or narrative that was trying to be pushed. 10 billion valuation that they've come from when they were trying to get three. Oh, sorry, 10 billion, yeah, when they were trying to get three. So it shows that the power of some of these protocols as well.
Yeah, this is the decentralized hive mind actually being a true reflection of chances and odds of things happening, which I really like to see because that was kind of what, Olga and I think it was Gnosis as well, even set out to do
Yeah,
initially back in 2016, 17 and didn't get there. But now we have this crypto prediction market. So I'm all for this. Yeah.
it's kind of like the proof of stake concept that you can't fake it. Like if you want to secure something, you've got to actually have value behind that security. And this is like an opinion. There has to be value behind the opinion. And you can see the volume, like the conviction that people have behind things.
Yeah.
Very interesting. So Monad is another protocol which we've talked about. They've been coming for a long time, huge amounts of value. This is going to TGE before Christmas, and I wouldn't be surprised if this becomes like a top protocol on day dot as far as market cap goes. I don't know where the value will be here, but I think there'll be huge value in its ecosystem tokens. And so for those that are traders and are looking for the next sort of wave, this will be very much the top front and center. And you can see that the execution clients now open source. They're getting very close to launching. So I would be scouring the Monad dApps and the website for all of the dApps that are coming on Monad because there'll be huge, like very speculative, but huge opportunity there.
And airdrops and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, airdrops, farming, all sorts of stuff there. All right, base. Now, this is a huge one, which we all kind of saw coming a million miles away, but they've actually sort of talked about launching a token. So we know the Coinbase business launched Coin as their stock, and it looks like the base token will come, is coming. Now, I don't know how this is going to work as far as revenues go, or what's it going to be backed by, or is it just going to be some sort of governance thing, which is kind of weird when they've also got a share. I think this will be the first of its kind to have like a trading stock and also a token.
Yeah.
Um, but it looks like, whether this is another money grab or whether this is needed for their ecosystem, I'll be interested to see how they do it, but it's going to be hugely bullish.
Yeah, always interesting to see how they're going to direct, revenues into the token when you're a publicly traded company expected to direct revenues to shareholders.
Yeah. Will it direct revenues? Is it just going to be just one of these? Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how they manage this. Um, but the news doesn't stop there. So Mega ETH is another one of these L2s in conjunction with Athena launching another stable coin, which will also have revenues associated with it. And this one did have a lot of hype and then kind of waned a little bit, but I would still be watching this launch as well, especially as they collaborate all together.
Yeah.
Couple more. Again, well, the one that we've all been talking about for almost 2 cycles now, that MetaMask has confirmed they're going to launch a token.
Yeah.
So this was like last cycle is their token coming from MetaMask. And this one is bullish for all of us who have been in crypto for a long time, because you got to think that there's going to be massive airdrops here.
Yeah.
And we've all probably had 50 different like wallets associated with MetaMask. Um, so we'll see what happens here, but this is also confirmed coming. I don't know if this is like top top cycle type sort of signs here a little bit. When it kind of freaks me out when all of these projects start launching tokens. Um,
Absolutely. And these layer two tokens, and let's hope it's generous, and probably a lot of people are going to sell if it's a good one, and let's see what FDV it settles at.
if you haven't used MetaMask, go spin one up because there's probably going to be airdrops associated with it. And then the big one this last week was the resurgence of Pump.Fun. So I've got pretty like not great feelings towards the existence of this protocol. I think that this is kind of what cooked our 2025 a little bit. We had this Bitcoin cycle and we had a Pump.Fun meme coin cycle, and this was the main like reason behind it. Um, then they kind of died and dropped off. But now it seems like that this new stream feature is going to be the actual like direction that they pivot towards, which is hugely interesting because we've always been saying that we need a real world social media use case. And now they seems like they're going to go after things like Twitch and Kick. Um, People can stream, whether or not this is going to be able to pair up with the video game streaming as well, which is a huge industry. Um, yeah, there's been some creators making incredible amounts of money just by streaming now at Pump.Fun this last couple of weeks. So I would be watching this space all over again. We all predicted the demise of Pump.Fun, but they've pivoted. Especially after their token launch, we weren't too loving them. But yeah, this is a pretty strong pivot.
Yeah, let's hope it doesn't get too crazy and depraved like some of the stuff we saw last time. So interesting to see how they're going to police all that as well.
Well, it just sucks liquidity out of the market. Like it just destroys value. And so like I hope that it actually becomes like a real world use case and not just this massive engine where like really good protocols miss out on liquidity because it's all gone to degeneracy over at pump.
Absolutely. Well, guys, head on over to nuggetsnews.com.au. We can get our free newsletter, all our research, or our high net worth client services. But Michael, thanks as always for joining us, and we'll speak to you next week.
See everyone.
Cheers, guys.